All right, ladies and gentlemen, guaranteed Hall of Fame show today is we have this incredible young man you're about to meet, Leo Pareja, who is the president of eXp Affiliated Services, and he's coming up next right here on Cliff's Notes. Real estate agents, are you struggling with the day-to-day grind, dialing for dollars, putting in hours of floor time with little to show for it? Are you looking for tips, tricks, and tactics to accelerate your career as an agent that will have you closing more homes, working with more clients, and earning more money than ever before? Hi, my name's Cliff Freeman, and I've spent the past 2 decades of my real estate career running one of the top brokerages in DFW and personally coaching over 1,000 high-performing real estate professionals across North America. I created this podcast to share the strategies and tactics you need to explode your real estate business. I guarantee it. All right, so we all know the Cowboys have got to play Tom Brady next Monday in Tampa Bay.
This coming Monday.
Well, yes. That's this coming Monday, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But I think we've got somebody in the real estate business who is going to approach that level that Tom Brady is. And he's our guest. He's in Miami today, I believe. Let's go ahead and bring, without further ado, let's bring Leo on. Leo, how are you, my friend? Oh, we got any volume? Whoops. Oh, sorry. There we go. I'm sorry. You doing all right?
I'm doing wonderful.
There we go. We couldn't hear you just for a second. We had to get the right squirrel on the right wheel in the cage here. Man, I am super stoked to finally get you on Cliff's Notes. You know, we've talked about getting you on the show a few times, and you've just been so busy creating such value. I mean, for eXp since you got here not that long ago, actually.
Right.
Man, you have just blazed a trail, I should say, since you've been here. And I mean, it's been nonstop, just incredible work you've been doing. And we're going to dive into some of that in a minute. But I want to welcome you. And I take it you are in Miami today, right?
I try to stay here between November and May. There's no better place on earth than winters in Miami.
Well, I got to tell you, yesterday there was, and the day before there was. Do you realize that Dallas was 83 degrees yesterday and 80 the day before?
Well, Miami was 85.
85? I thought I heard it was 60 down there. Darn. Oh, I guess
today it was a low of 60, but it was a high of 85.
High of 85?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Miami's still a better place in the wintertime than Dallas. I'll give you that credit. But Leo, you're one of those people that we don't get to see very often in real estate. Man, you've done so many different aspects of this business, everything from being, let's just lay it out there. Number one at KW worldwide for transactions. I think you sold 4,000 houses for, I think, $750 million in your tenure there, and then you went on to start was it Hard Money? Is that what Washington was? It was
Yep.
Hard Money, and you built that up into a great venture that you were able to harvest, and so you've done the finance side, and then you in that process you were building the technology for your company, and you. Just as we say, necessity is the mother of invention around our house, right? And
yeah. You
just happened to decide to create a technology company that later became Remine, which you harvested as well. And then you've done so well, you were able to build a foundation in your family's name and help women and disadvantaged people of color get help and mentoring. You and your wife were both involved heavily with Big Brothers and Big Sisters. Man, you've just done so many great things already. And we are so fortunate at eXp to now have your talents and have you steering us through affiliated services. And I want to go ahead and dive into that so you can talk a little bit about what you've been working on and the things that you've been able to do since you've been here. But first of all, again, I want to welcome you and just tell you we're so glad that you're here today.
I appreciate that. Those are kind words from you. I appreciate that.
Well, let's dive right on in, and so I gave a little brief history. I'm sure I left something out here that's notable from your past, but you were charged here. EXP has been around since 2000, roughly 9, and it really kicked into gear about 2015, 2016. And affiliated services it was an area that really, it just really, we were focused really on the core business until we got to a certain size, and then it made sense to look closer at affiliated businesses. And since you've been here, just what are the highlights of, in your eyes, of some of the things that you've been able to put together for these affiliated relationships so far?
Yeah, no, I'll actually add a little bit of backstory on how I ended up here. So after I sold my last couple businesses, I moved to South Florida and was doing a lot of spearfishing and spending time with my family, which had not been uh, my biggest priority, unfortunately, because we were traveling so much to build those companies. Um, but when Glenn Sanford called me, he actually wanted me to be either this CTO or CIO on the tech side. And I politely said I was not interested in the tech side of as much. I just enjoy the business side of it way more. And I actually ended up spending several months with some of the top leadership here, asking where I thought some of the biggest opportunities were. And to me, affiliate service was the biggest opportunity because Glenn built a model that was able to attract talented folks like yourself, Cliff, that really created an interesting flywheel and a very big attraction opportunity um, that I really didn't think I would be adding much to that process. So I came up with the opportunity from spending time with Glenn and Jeff and Jason and all the folks in leadership. And so I've been here going on 8 months, and I'm not sure if you heard last month or the month before, I became the chief strategy officer for the whole company.
Congratulations. That is huge. Man, look how loaded we are at the leadership at the C level right now. This is amazing. Mm-hmm. I mean, it just blows me away. We have got such talent up there. And so tell us a little bit about this new role. What all does this involve now?
Yeah, so one of the things that Glenn had asked me before I accepted the opportunity was, even though I kind of carved out and picked the affiliated services as the biggest opportunity, which encompass all the companies we own. So, Zoocasa and Success Lending and everything else rolls up to me. He did want me to lean in across the enterprise. As Glenn put it, I'm uniquely bilingual, that I speak real estate and tech. Not too many folks have that experience where I've built software and deployed it to 1.1 million realtors at scale. So I have the bruises and the scar tissue on what to do and what not to do. So I do spend a lot of my time touching all aspects of our enterprise and the workflow and the back end systems on how we clear commissions and how we get you guys paid faster. And to me, our mandate is simple. I want EXP to be the number one place to be, not just because of the economic opportunity, but how your daily life looks like as an agent, right? It's seamless, it's frictionless. If you look at capitalism, what wins is a frictionless experience, right? Is it smoother? Is it simpler? Is it intuitive? So I end up spending a lot of time, obviously, with affiliate services as I would say my priority, but across the enterprise. How are we faster, stronger, better? How do we give agents more? And how do we make their daily life simpler and easier to be here?
That's interesting. A lot of real estate companies kind of paid lip service to tech, calling themselves tech companies. They built proprietary systems, and boy, did we learn the hard way that proprietary certainly doesn't mean best of breed or better than anything else. But there's been a big washout in the financial markets and technology, and the old days of you never had to show a profit and so forth. I think those may be gone. I think that actually companies now are going to have some legitimacy in order to go forward. But Leo, what do you see as the opportunities and the threats in the real estate industry, technology side of the real estate industry going forward?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, since I spent the last decade of my life in that side of it. I wholeheartedly agree with everything you just said. I think that the companies that understand what their core competency is are the ones that are doing the best right now. I don't think we have any delusions that we're a software company first. We are a real estate company with best in breed opportunity and platform to do your business, right? We support independent entrepreneurs that are best in class in their local markets or in multiple markets with what you do. And so what I'm focused on is whether it's affiliate services and or third party technology that we use to operate our business. How is that as seamless as possible? How is that as intuitive possible? How do we work with the state forms and the associations and the different MLSs that encompass all of the folks we serve to give agents the best in class opportunity where, I didn't understand the opportunity here, but you guys are truly borderless in how you can grow your businesses. If you were independent brokers in the DFW area and you wanted to go to, Houston or Austin, that's simple or simpler because all you're doing is joining an additional, association and MLS board. But if you just hop the border into one of your neighboring states, you could have different licensing requirements and bonding requirements and escrow requirements. Where for us, if you were to recruit team members to your team, and I'm talking about the transactional business different from your rev share groups, the opportunity is just different, right? We're in a changing market where the makeup of the buyers are becoming very institutional in some markets, right? So if you land a SFR buyer, institutional buyer with your relationships, Cliff, being with EXP is a platform that allows you to recruit and train agents in a way that makes sense for you and plug them in a different state and be able to continue to scale your operations with the least amount of friction possible. Whether you're an independent and trying to do that, it becomes a lot more cumbersome and regulatory red tape in order to execute on that.
So help us understand here. This is a very crowded market, crowded space that we're in. There's a lot of noise, a lot of people shaking their pom-poms, saying they're the best at this, best in that. At the end of the day, Leo, what really differentiates what we're doing as a company with affiliated services versus other people in our space?
No, that's a great question. And again, I think we always need to remember what is our core competency, and that's the brokerage business. And at the end of the day, we're in the people business. So to me, the way I look at it is our core competency is to make sure that we're attractive to have the best minds in the space and the best practitioners in the space, because it becomes a flywheel, right? People are attracted to this company, not only for the economic opportunity, which others are trying to replicate, but it's really the people you get to be in business with. The people and the organizations you guys have built is really impressive to watch, especially coming from the space and understanding what other large players have done. The speed at which it's been done here and the cross collaboration is unique, right? We're the single largest monolithic brokerage, single brand, single office, if you will. There's nobody like us. I think Compass is a distant second from an agent count standpoint, or NRT, but we're one company. When you look at KW, Remax, or any of the Realty or Anywhere brands, they're at most, 2,000 agents in one franchise agreement? That is not the same as 86,000 collaborative people working together to grow together. And the fact that we're borderless, I was in person in Miami yesterday at Orlando and Daniel Montiel's event with 700 people. And that is a local quarterly event that I'll tell you that some of the other bigger brands couldn't get that as their national event for one group. And so I think the focus and the opportunity is that affiliate services becomes a more interesting opportunity as we've become a national company. And really my job is to try to get you guys the best products, the best services at the best price and or economic opportunity for you compared to other companies. Being here over time will become an even more obvious no-brainer because you'll have access to best in breed technology at a better price than you could have it if you were somewhere else because of our buying power. And that's one of the beautiful things that come with scale. And as you said, there's a lot of crowded pom-pom noise being made, but at the end of the day, we are the first mover advantage, and we are the 800-pound gorilla, and our flywheel is very much in motion. And I just think that people are going to fight for a distant second, and it's going to be a lot more expensive to try to get there.
Yeah, yeah. So we're at about 86,000 agents roughly here. There are about after the end of the year, there'll probably be about 1.3 or 4 realtors left here. Globally, I've heard it said that there may be as many as 10 million real estate agents worldwide. In your eyes, how big is the global opportunity, not just from an agent count standpoint, but from a technology standpoint? How big is that opportunity?
So I wouldn't have the numbers to share with you as to how big the sizing is. I like to understand Glenn's vision, and the number I heard him say on stage yesterday is in 5 years to 500 agents, whether that's inclusive of all the global opportunities. And so I like having kind of sequential measurable goals. So I like to be able to close in on something like 500,000 in 5 years, or if we say make it 500,000 and it takes 6, 7, or 8 or 10 years, that still would make us the single largest brand in the world, right? So I think the big takeaway for me is that, just how I said a little bit ago, that we have no boundaries across states. That translates into the globe, and kind of how integrated the global markets are. That it should be how your business looks like as well.
Well, we just recently acquired Zoocasa, and that's for our Canadian friends primarily, I believe. Down in Mexico, there is really no MLS system. There's Point Two. There are some other local brokerages that try to run their listings and so forth. As Chief Strategy Officer, where does this global opportunity lie in the sort of rocks for the next 5 years? I mean, right now, if you were to give me your 3 top priorities as Chief Strategy Officer, what would we be looking at?
Yeah, so the very first one, the one I was most focused on when I got here, was creating revenues, right? So when I look at the biggest incumbent players, and I do like to pay respect to the folks that have paved the way before us. Realogy and Berkshire Hathaway, with this amalgamation of multiple brands, have done interesting things. And what both of those companies have executed really well on is ancillary and affiliated companies. So there is definitely a nod to be modeled there. But what the Cardis offering has at Realogy was very unique. And I spent 7 years selling MLSs belly to belly, and I got to ask some of the smartest people that I respect, who are not with EXP, who own Realogy franchises, why are you still there? It doesn't, I don't really see that as a value proposition. Why would you own one of the legacy brands? And it was 100% of the time because of the Cardis offering, right? So I felt that was a very timely, competitive, big company function that we did not have, that I was able to quickly put together and bring in-house as a very strong retention and attraction tool. So that is for 2023 and beyond, I think, going to become a pivotal piece of our offering, with tens of thousands of additional closings coming through for the company, in addition to all the standardized partnerships that we didn't really have the structure in place for, that we were able to put in place and really focus on customer acquisition and becoming a real good solid funnel, while creating a better opportunity for agents. And then, the last part of that focus, which is not built overnight, is title, mortgage, insurance, right? Those are the big economic opportunities, but the hardest to crack. And, I've had many conversations about that offline, and not one that I'm going to kind of rush through, because I think it is going to be belly to belly and winning hearts and minds. And if done correctly, or when done correctly, will be extremely profitable for us.
Yeah. So you mentioned Cardis. I mean, wow, they're the dominant player in the the relocation business, and they get paid well for what they do. If you were to put Cardis and Revenos side by side, how would Revenos stack up here?
Yeah, so Revenos is all company directed referral business, whether it's a seller or a buyer. It could be relocation, REO, affinity, institutional grade sellers, which is a huge emerging class, and then all types of whether individualized seller or buyer lead opportunities, right? So I'm forging, large scale enterprise solutions, and I'm actually dialing for dollars just like our agents do, but I just get to use a bigger phone and I have a bigger value proposition, which is I have the single largest monolithic brokerage in the country with 86,000 agents in all 50 states. So you should use us to dispose of your assets or referrals and take care of your relocating people. So from a net execution standpoint, we're 80 to 100% higher cut to the agent than they would at Cardis. So it is a much more interesting net execution to the agents, very much in line with us sharing back the lion's share of the economics with our agents, but with equal to or greater referrals types and mix than they would at other companies.
Very interesting. Yeah. It's kind of hard to kick King Kong off the top of the mountain. That's just they've got such a foothold in the business. Where do you see, how long do you think it's going to be before Revenos becomes a really strong number-wise competitor with the type of volume that Cardis does?
Yeah, no, Cardis, but I think it won't be long because Cardis has been very focused on purely one strategy, which is relocation, and that's just only one of many opportunities we're chasing. But I'll tell you the amount of inbound interest I've been getting since I got here, where folks are saying, "Hey, you guys actually have something very unique that nobody else does." And as we continue to grow it, I think there'll be additional opportunities that we'll be able to be the again, just like we need to be, and I focus on being the no-brainer solution for agents as to where to hang their license. I want it to be just as simple of a decision for folks that need to buy and sell at scale individual properties, and they need an agent network to handle that for them.
Okay. All right. So that was Revenos. Obviously, that's the one that's dead center here. That is the one that you really want to execute at a high level. Then you mentioned mortgage and title, and we've got a track record going now with Success Lending, and I just so happens that Wells Fargo announced was it the day before yesterday at 5 p.m. that they were exiting the retail mortgage and correspondent for anybody outside of their banking clients. This, I think, was an anomaly. I talked with Sean Patricus, interviewed him yesterday morning about it, and it's kind of, they're in a unique situation. Tell me this, you were saying that it's relationship based, and you said that Realty had done a great job of getting their affiliated businesses in through that adoption phase. I'm trying now. I may just be remiss here, but what did Realty do on the mortgage side? Leo, am I forgetting about something?
Yeah, so Religio's portfolio of both title and mortgage has been hyper local, and I would point more towards Relogy for their title execution and Berkshire Hathaway more towards their mortgage execution. So Relogy, owned and spun off TRG, and so their title business capture is the one I'm studying and seeing how much bits of information I can learn from other people's execution. But Berkshire Hathaway acquired many companies that had a very strong mortgage discipline. So if you were to look at Long and Foster in the Mid-Atlantic with Prosperity Mortgage, or whatever mortgage opportunity, Ebby Holiday or Hannah Howard, or Howard Hanna, or any of those very large kind of traditional companies that had very solid mortgage operations. That's what Berkshire Hathaway has acquired and put together. Very, very well done.
Yeah. So do you think at a local level, I mean, is that because, I mean, I look at Glenn Stearns and just an amazing track record he's got in the mortgage business with Stearns Lending, and he's such a class guy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So success is success lending is, we're all in on that opportunity. And what I focus on with Sean is making sure that we are recruiting, and especially in this down market, is recruiting the LOs that agents already have relationships with. Right. So I think it is a belly to belly, like, contact sport, but I think this gives us a unique opportunity where if we can present, hey, you don't have to change the relationship, because in my experience, disrupting the mortgage relationship is probably the hardest entire relationship to disrupt out of the value proposition, because it's the most volatile one. If your LO drops the ball, your buyer's homeless, and you've got egg on your face, and you're that is not a chain of event that you want to be a part of. So asking someone to try a different insurance product or title company or sign company or home inspection company is a much softer value proposition than switching. I feel like the lender is probably the hardest one to win over. And so with Sean, we're really, really focused on saying, hey, let me try to recruit who you work with. And today we have the opportunity that we didn't have 12 months ago, because 12 months ago, LOs were saying, give me $100,000 signing bonus. Now they're like, hey, you still have money to lend and products to fulfill loans with. I'm interested in talking to you. So, I've been saying it a lot in any larger forum, and I'm a wartime general, and we are going to war, and that's different than peacetime. And this is actually, to me, a very exciting time to grow an enterprise, because couple 6, 12, 18 months ago, there was not much skill required, right? If you got a listing, you'd get 46 offers and win 20% above list price, and any person with a real estate in a heartbeat could sell a house. Right now the art of negotiation, the market expertise to take a listing and say, hey, you need to invest these $6,000 in refreshing the paint, changing out the hardware, redoing the countertop, because it'll get you a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 ROI on this list price, or it will reduce the days on market from 6 months to 3 months. That's the skill set and the professionalism that people are not going to negotiate your commission splits on, right? So that's to me the most amazing time to get market share. And we forget sometimes that we're in a zero-sum game business. There is a limited amount of transactions and X amount of realtors who may or may not survive. And so in order for us to grow, we either need to capture more agents or take more business away from our competitors.
Yeah, there's no question about it. It is, it's like tossing a coin. There's a winner and a loser, and there's no reason why you should be on the losing side. We're in the trenches with our 110 agents here in the DFW area with the Cliff Freeman group, and when we saw this coming, we completely shifted, what we were coaching and training, and you hit it on the head. This is going to be the thinning of the herd here, where you have agents who are actually skilled and qualified to be in this position, and they're not going to be just order takers going along the way here further. So with these affiliated services, and I think you said earlier, your goal is to have an environment, Leo, where agents can be just work in this sort of this equilibrium where everything is there for them and they have best access to best of breed and so forth. How do you see going forward? Do you see a movement of direction in this business toward teams? Are we going to continue to see individual agents out there flourishing? How much of the success going forward is going to be due to leverage, scale, and technology? How is this industry going to look?
That's a great question. I mean, I'm 40 years old, but I've been in the business for 20 years, and I've seen quite a bit evolved. When I got started in the early 2000s, the biggest teams in the country were doing 300 or 400 transactions a year, and the year I was #1 in the world for Keller Williams, I did 603 transactions by unit count. That's the ranking I got #1 for. But now we have teams that are doing 2,000 and 3,000 deals a year. So just in my tenure, I witnessed the rise of the super agent, and we've also seen a shift in the business model, right? To me, the mega team, your team, is the new brokerage, right? So the team is the brokerage within a brokerage, which is reminiscent of the once upon a time traditional business where high level of support, high level of training, leads, qualification, with a split more similar to the original brokerages. And what we do at the corporate side or the brokerage side is provide a platform to allow you guys to grow the biggest businesses. So I'm a firm believer the agent's going to be around for a very long time, especially my functional lifetime. And I'm quite opinionated about that. I will say that, you know, when most other things have been disrupted, I don't see real estate being disrupted in the same way for a couple reasons. And it's all statistics. The average American only buys and moves 3.5 times in their lifetime, right? They move 7 or 8 times when you include all the rentals, but the average family buys their starter home, grows out of it, gets their bigger home that they raise their family in, and they go down, they downsize. So I like to say real estate moves are human condition. They're independent of interest rate, right? You've never said, hey, let me move up from my house because rates are good. It's like I made more humans. My humans moved out, death, divorce, and maybe a relocation along the way, or a loss of a job. So one way or the other, the job move could be real there. So it is a human condition thing. And when it happens, I used to sell real estate in the DC area, and I represented some of the smartest people in the country, you know, from a educational standpoint and power standpoint and everything else. But when they had to buy and sell a house, they turned into mushy, emotional human beings, right? And so highly infrequent, very expensive, and you store humans in it. So highly, highly emotional. And what I can tell you from representing high-powered lawyers and lobbyists who said this is going to be a financial transaction and it's got to be this, that, and this, and I want a good deal. At the end of the day, was it the right decision for the family, right? And I say to people, what happens is you have to move. You decide what the most you can afford is, whether it's buying or renting, and then you will decide based on your lifestyle where that property will be, and the market will dictate what you can buy. Right? Whether that's a townhouse, condo, single family, and you will buy in the geography that makes most sense for you. And at that moment on that transaction, most people aren't going to nickel and dime over, you know, the compensation, because at the end of the day, especially if you're going to be in the home an average of 9 years, which is what the American family does, and you dollar cost average that, you want to find the right home and you want to be represented by someone that makes you feel protected. So I think we're going to be here for a long time. I think that the mega agent, the super agent, will continue to grow because of the offerings that they can then provide to agents. But I think the solo agent will still be here for a long time. So whether it's a brokerage like us or an MLS, you know, the balance is to provide tools and opportunities for both.
Well, I can tell you this, there's no better place to scale if you're a mega agent than right here.
For sure.
And I know you're just getting started on what you're working on, Leo, but it's already a great place to scale, no question about it. You know, we haven't really gone through the list of all of the things that Leo's responsible for, but I think, Travis, do we have that URL, maybe if you could just pull that up for us. That was here it is. These are the professional solutions, and if you're watching the show, you can go here and see just the depth of the affiliated services that we have here. Everything from enriched data services to Success Space, which is part of the Success Coaching brand, Agent Healthcare. My gosh, that was a game changer. The CE Shop. I mean, we've got things like Curbio, Build a Sign, Transactly, Showcase ID. Is that there's more?
You can click on you want to click on listing solutions, go down there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well,
Then,
I mean, you'll find all these too, but I mean, there's real commissions, enriched data e-commission, all of these.
Offers.
Yeah. Express offers, another huge one, making it rain. I Spy 360, we use that all the time for our 3D pictures.
Click on client solutions.
Client solutions, another one here. Look at that, man. I'll tell you what, Divvy, Com Loan, I great for commercial loans. O'Connor has been doing our property tax protest for years.
Yep.
Yeah, JTC Americas, look at this.
There's Success Lending.
Yeah, yeah. So, and Currencies Direct, and there's Young Alfred for insurance. I mean, my goodness, you talk about things that we're bringing to the table here for agents. I mean, it's just
a lot of value.
It's incredible. Yeah, it really is. Leo, and that's really all under your watch still, even though you've been promoted, right? That's still
I oversee all of that, and then the additional businesses that we own.
Yeah. What's the process if somebody came across something that they've used in their business for years and maybe it just hadn't hit your radar screen yet, and they go, man,
the process is to get a hold of me. I before we got on this call, I was on with a different vendor, and so the kind of rapid fire approach is, if I don't understand it very quickly, it's not going to go very far, and that's just from being in the trenches, right? So somebody says, oh, I have this great idea. My number one question is, does it scale, right? I cannot bring on a single opportunity that only serves the DFW market, right? If it can't go into all 50 states, it's a non-starter for us. Mm-hmm. And then my second layer of view is it something that touches every transaction or as many transactions as possible? Like everything you just said can or should be used on every transaction. A home warranty, Curbio to me is just such a phenomenal tool that didn't exist 10 years ago. Anything that empowers that agent to show up as well versed as possible. So like you take every solution inside of eXp Solutions for a ready, willing, and able seller, there should not be a single objection you can't overcome, right? If I want a cash offer, you can show up with one. If the property needs to be renovated prior to sell, you can do that. If the person wants to rent before they buy, we have that solution with Divvy. We are positioning the eXp agent to have every tool in their tool belt to be able to walk out and serve that buyer or seller to the best of their ability, because we have every best-in-class opportunity at their disposal.
Yeah, and I really don't want to kick a dead horse here, but I really do want to emphasize to people in our audience that just because we didn't build it doesn't mean it's not better. And if you've got something that's proprietary and you think that that's special, you may be mistaken. Leo, would you agree with that?
1,000%. And if you see some of those, most of a lot of those relationships I added after getting here, and I went to the best in class, right? It's like, how do I, building everything in house did not work for some of our competitors. And so by picking best in breed, it gives us the flexibility too, that if for some reason one of them isn't performing, I can rank them and replace them with somebody else. So and markets change and opportunities change, and so we have the ability to pivot and go somewhere else, versus if we built something, it could become a weight around our own neck.
Yeah. And I think at this point, for somebody in our audience who's not familiar with the model, it might make sense to explain how these affiliated services play into their income. And for those of you who don't know, if you come over to eXp and you do anything, whether it's a transaction or you attract somebody, you will become an owner. You will own stock in eXp. The good news is that the stock, eXp World Holdings, is not just the real estate company. No. In other words, the real estate company made $100 million last year. But that's not all. That's only a portion of the earnings of the holding company, eXp World Holdings.
Right.
But all these other companies, not just, now we don't outright own all of our affiliates, but many of them we have an interest in or driving income that drives the income for eXp World Holdings. So we talk about things like revenue share plus and things that will benefit our shareholders. And this is a huge part. What Leo is in charge of is a huge part of that whole picture in terms of how valuable the stock is, the company, the enterprise as a whole. Because again, we're not just talking about the realty part of the equation here. This is the whole thing.
Right. And does that also include the commercial division as well? So you'll have realty, commercial, and then the affiliated services are all underneath eXp World Holdings.
eXp, yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. And thanks for bringing that up, C3, because, Leo, we really haven't talked about what's going on the commercial side in terms of affiliated services, but I mean, there's a lot going on there. Can you speak to that just a little bit?
Yeah. So to his point right there, eXp World Holdings has multiple entities underneath it, including Verbella and Success and several other of our other holdings and brands. And so all of that revenue and opportunity rolls up to EXPI, which is what the shares you are given in. So when you get award shares or you buy shares, you're not just buying shares of eXp Realty, you're buying all of it. And as we continue to create those opportunities and kind of cross-pollinate that, that will give us an opportunity to create more operating margin, which is what makes our shares more valuable from a just cash flow and how they get valued. So, we want to make sure that there's that flywheel effect and that they're all helping each other out and making your guys' life better and keeping you at the center of the transaction the best way possible.
Exactly. Yeah. I've often been quoted as saying that agents spend more time planning their next vacation than they do vetting the broker that they're going to spend their career with. Leo, if you were to have an ear of some folks in our audience who were open-minded and concerned about where they are, what's the best advice you could offer somebody? And I don't mean that as a pitch for EXP, but what does an agent who's just unsure about the future where they are, what things do they need to be thinking about?
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting question that, my vantage point is different because I've traveled the entire country, interacting with folks in different parts of the country. And one thing that always comes to mind is at the end of the day, this is a people business, right? So a franchise of KW Century 21, Remax, or Realty is different in one market than it is another. And that's most of the time the only people you interact with. The level of collaboration and kind of borderless interactions that I've witnessed at EXP is very unique. And I think it's like probably the only place where you'll see it because of the incentives and the models are built that way. So I feel that the company is structured in a way where there is an incentive to share across borders, markets, versus at a lot of the traditional companies, the franchisees draw very real lines on maps. So you can't cross this and it turns into almost gangland activity in the sense of, because again, franchisees actually compete with each other of the same brand. And it's a very different dynamic than we have. And so at the end of the day, whether you're paying a cap to Keller or Remax or EXP, I bet you the nominal difference is meaningless. So you really need to ask the question, is this the people I want to be in business with? Again, I think our offering with equity, rev share, and the digital world we get to live in is by far enough of a value proposition. But if you were to say that most of the stuff is a commodity, the people you get to be in business with is probably the most important thing anyone should be looking at. Who do you get to be in business with on a daily basis? Who do you get to learn from? Who do you get to model, right? I've said from stages for 20 years, we don't do brain surgery. We're not writing, the code to the next rocket launch or doing brain surgery. What we do is actually quite simple and repeatable and scalable. And the way you get to build your business is by modeling and learning from folks that you want to be in business with. And I think this is the best place to do that.
Yeah, it is a beaten path, and success leaves clues. And boy, I'll tell you what, Leo, we are we're so blessed to have you and in a leadership position at that high of a level to help this company get where it's destined to go. Man, it's been a wild ride for us for the last 6 years.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine what the next 6 years are going to be like as well. And I just thank Gene Frederick for coming up with his favorite saying, which is EXP makes real estate fun again.
Yes.
Because I got to tell you, I was ready to hang up my cleats and take the ball and bat and go somewhere else. But it wasn't until I got over here that I got re-energized and we really started enjoying our time in the real estate business again, because it is a great industry. It's just a lot of the other stuff that goes on is kind of what makes it challenging at times. Leo, is there anything that maybe we didn't ask you today that you wish we had?
I think we got into a lot of different fun things in there. I would just tell folks that, smooth seas never make skilled sailors, right? So even though the next 18 months may be some of the most difficult years for agents who got licensed after 2012, I don't know if you're in the main stage at EXPCon when I asked the room to raise their hands if they got their license after 2012. And I would roughly guess that it was like 70% of the room.
Yeah.
So, there's agents that have probably never had a conversation with a seller about lowering their price or paying concessions or buying down rates. And so, this is where iron sharpens iron, and it's learning the skills and the craft. I was with Glenn yesterday, and I was saying I don't think a lot of people take this as their vocation and their craft. I've spent at the event that I did the main stage this week, I said I probably spent 4 times what I spent on my college education on personal development over the last 20 years.
Amen.
And so, I've spent tens of thousands of dollars in high level sales and negotiation tactics where I was in the room with Exxon executives, and the exercise was we're negotiating commodity pricing, right? If you learn this craft and take it to that level, it's actually fun to compete, right? Because you get to deliver such a value proposition that I think the average professional doesn't bring to the table. And it's fun, and it's a way to serve your clients in a way that it's hard to compete with, right? When you deliver the level of service, there is no competition. No one's going to pick somebody who's going to charge 0.5% less than you when you can deliver that level of value.
That's right. From Leo's lips to your ears, right here on Cliff's Notes. Leo Pareja, thank you so much for being here today. We're going to see you in New York in a couple of weeks. We're excited about that as well. So thank you again so much for being here, man. We are stoked and super excited about the future. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys. Give us a little love out there, if you would, on Facebook land and YouTube. Hit the like button, the love button, whatever you want to hit a button, all right? Just take some action and
hit something.
And hit something. That's right. That's what this real estate business is all about. Get in the way of a real estate transaction. And we'll be back next week, right?
Yes. Let's go Cowboys. Playoff time.
That's right.
So
TB, look out. You're in trouble. But we'll catch you next week right here on Cliff's Notes.
Tune in to Cliff's Notes every Thursday at 1 o'clock Central for the tips, tricks, and tactics to explode your business. I